Our next session, beginning right now at 9:45, Future-Proofing Brands and Publishers in 2023 and Beyond. We have a full panel starting with Dan Nathan, CNBC Fast Money contributor and principal, and RiskReversal. Jessica Sibley, COO Forbes. Adam Singolda, founder and CEO of Taboola. David Spector, chairman, co-founder, ThirdLove. And finally, Jen Wong, COO of Reddit. Big hand for our panelists, please.
Dan, can I ask, how did we get this slot at the event right after David and Isaiah?
So many of you probably know Adam Singolda. I was meant to be the moderator, but we're going to hand over the mic to him.
I just want to know how we got that. How do you move from this inspirational conversation to talk about the industry? That's what I want to know.
Well, hey, listen, shout out to David and his team, because this is a truly excellent event, and it really does feel like we've crossed the Rubicon, if you will. I was here last year at Zeta Live, and I know by design it was meant to be an intimate affair, but have some breadth outside of the room, and this really feels great. So thank you to David and the whole Zeta team here. You know, interestingly, I mean, you look at this list, you guys saw the bios in the program. This is a list of what I would say of just baller operators here. And so what we really wanted to talk about and make it very conversational is just some of the changing shifts in consumer behavior right now. You know, David talked about this, you know, our generation, I think his generation's a little different than mine, but who knows? You know, like just the challenges that we've seen in the last couple of years, and from where you guys sit in your businesses, think about the black hole that was the pandemic and all the challenges that you guys faced in your own businesses, the decisions that you had to make as businesses. Now here we are on the other side of it. Remember that narrative about the roaring 20s when we came out of the pandemic? Well, here we are, and now we're faced with also another generational, I think, challenge here, which is generationally high inflation, right? And so it's causing a lot of businesses to reevaluate those post-pandemic plans. So I just want to start with you, Adam. I know that you just already kicked the thing off here, but how are you guys thinking about changing consumer behavior in a very uncertain time right now?
Yeah, so first, thanks for David. Thanks for having us. Zeta, thanks for having us. Excited to be here in person, not on Zoom, not from remote, not from home, not from anywhere. Really like interacting with people, which is fun. So from our perspective, Taboola, we power recommendations for the open web. So what we see, our secret sauce is, we see what people read on the internet. So when you go to CNBC or the Today Show or BBC or any one of those amazing publications, we see what people read, and that's kind of our pulse of humanity. It's not, I think, you know, a lot of times, especially not younger audiences, we don't really tell Facebook what we really want to do and what really scares us, and, you know, you'll never tell Facebook about your healthcare situation and, you know, how much you're happy or unhappy. You'll put on Facebook things that make you look good, you know, traditional lies and stuff on social networks, but you read about things you really love and curious about, and that's kind of our pulse. So especially during these times, and for advertisers, what we're trying to bubble up is this readership and curiosity data to say, well, you know, people really read more about these things, and maybe that's a proxy for what market they're in. As an example, in the pandemic, we saw this huge surge in traffic about people reading about face masks. And I'm telling you, within not more than 30 days, this turned into a $100 million marketing industry for us, where people started businesses all over the world sending beautiful masks, not beautiful masks, you know, and different type of things. And that happened way before we knew. So I think, you know, for us now, we see people read less about luxury and things. We see people read more about travel, about, you know, entertainment. Try to get a restaurant, you know, dinner reservation in New York City, you can't.
Just call Adam.
Yeah, so that's kind of what, less luxury, more life, entertainment, living.
So Jen, I mean, you know, you operated a business where, the demand that you saw, the acknowledgement of your brand, and the way that Adam was just talking about, the way people were searching for information during the pandemic, and I mean, much to change the course of your business. I have to think, you know, in the last couple of years, just the brand awareness of people coming to Reddit for all of these things that Adam just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Adam mentioned about what you see in Taboola, we see something similar. It's really the thought of what's on the minds of our communities and people, and it changes so quickly. Like we saw that during the pandemic. People were worried about masks, then they were worried about the quality of their computers at home, then they were worried about how do I get meals on the table, and then now they're worried about travel, and then as they start to think about inflation, they're asking each other, how do I spend but make good choices, right? So they're thinking about like, okay, I'm gonna cook 5 days a week, but I'm gonna go out Saturday and Sunday, or I'm gonna zhuzh this outfit up, help me by just changing out the shirt, right? So that you can see that they still wanna spend, but they are trying to figure out how to do it in a smart way, and that's been a new trend. I mean, if you see what happened on Reddit, we went from Wall Street Bets, which is people wanting access to the financial markets, all the way to one of our largest growing subreddits is anti-work now. And that's a dramatic, you could argue like one is extremely capitalistic and one is on the other end of the spectrum. And we see all of these movements happen. It's just what's on people's consciousness as they go back to work and are now confronted with a very different work life. So similarly, our business is rooted in where our communities are going, that context. Where are people spending time? What do they care about? And how does that translate for a marketer into intent and what people's new behaviors are that can be aligned with their business?
Yeah, and for Forbes, I would say it's also about our audience and really understanding our audience and what they're consuming content-wise on our site. And so we obviously rely on our partners, we rely on data to help inform and make those great editorial decisions. And talking about COVID, we noticed that our audience was focused so much on stimulus, on remote work, on workforce, and all of the unrelated issues to sort of the catastrophic issues related to disease, pandemic. So we really created a whole editorial engine to continue to put out that content to drive those audiences. And again, to partner with our marketing advertisers who wanted to reach these audiences because they were driving digital transformation. They were driving the accessibility of Wi-Fi or hardware or software, all of those things to be able to amazingly, flawlessly do what we were doing every day so differently, dramatically overnight. So we've learned a lot about that. I think currently, we are seeing travel and other content areas really peak, and that does relate to luxury. Really didn't realize how luxury and travel are so intertwined. So when travel went down, luxury went down, travel's back, luxury's back. So those are a lot of different ways that we've been able to be successful as a brand.
All right, so we talk a lot about technology. There's this pull forward during the pandemic. People work from home and school from home and all that sort of stuff. And I assume that maybe, David, people stopped using your product during the pandemic when they were locked at home. Just kind of letting it all just go here a little bit. But maybe this is a post-pandemic trend. I'm assuming things are going really well with back to work here in the office, or no?
Things are going well. We certainly saw the lulls that everybody saw in the beginning of the pandemic, but we had to shift our product, all of our strategies very, very quickly, particularly supply chain, which is probably the hardest thing that we do that doesn't get enough attention, including inside my own company. And then we had to shift where we find these high intent customers, right? Because they were looking for something different. I don't necessarily know that we knew what they were looking for. I don't think anybody did, nor did we really know how long this would last for. And then going, where we are today, headed back to work, people are still looking for different products and different items. And I think our inventory mix has been really, really difficult to nail. And then just speaking about advertising too, because I think we spend money with almost everybody on this stage. Sorry, Dan. Working on that. My next company. But what we struggle to find, like everybody else does, is customers, right? And I think that the proliferation of more publishers, of more platforms, actually makes it harder for our marketing team and others to figure out where we should spend the money. The good news is we've decreased our Facebook spend by almost 40% since the pandemic when rates started to rise. Couldn't make me happier either. And then that has left extra budget. Well, we've also become more profitable, but that's left extra budget to spend on other channels and other platforms and take bets on places like Reddit or Forbes or other spots that we normally wouldn't go to because our marketing team was so comfortable advertising where they were, which was Google, Facebook, and a few other places.
So we're here at Zeta Live. I mean, how has technology helped inform some of these sort of practices from here on out? I mean, obviously you've had, all of you have had this, again, we've talked about just how uncertain the last few years have been, but I'm sure technology has been all of our friend here when you think about just how we're gonna go about running our businesses from here on out. I think we're all probably gotten a bit better. Talk to a little bit about that, Adam.
So I mean, I think the last few years, especially by the way, seeing the success of companies like TikTok. I mean, the one side, it's a fairly evil company because they suck humanity into these long feeds, and people make decisions based on false information. That's not nice. On the other side, it's amazing that, and David and I talked about it, that in our life we've seen a company becoming bigger than Facebook, and Facebook is pretty good at what they do. The average person spends 50 minutes a day on Facebook and an hour and a half on TikTok. So it's an unbelievable phenomena, but so what we can learn from that from a technology perspective is the power of AI. To give someone an hour and a half of your time every day in average is just unbelievable. So I think for all of us here, the idea that you can truly innovate and make something personalized and relevant because people only have 24 hours a day, and that will never change, is just shows you that there's an opportunity to do something so much better. Now I'll tell you, while everyone uses the word AI, there's a huge difference between machine learning, ML, deep learning, DL, and bullshit, BS. Because it's so hard to do deep learning. There's so few people around the world that are amazing engineers, and they cost a lot. So I will say that what we all learned during this time is that you have to be kind of super focused. I think learn from those platforms in terms of data and technology. And do it in a much less evil way, like people on this panel that, trying to drive journalism, free speech, and so forth.
I mean, I think I'm the oldest one here. I mean, not myself, but my company, Forbes, we're a 105-year-old brand. We're here in this room. This is amazing with all of you. And it's all about technology. If you think about, 1917, when we had our first magazine, it was printed. We had to get it to people. And if we didn't embrace technology and do all of the really hard work across the entire journey, and it's changing every day, I wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be thriving.
Yeah. Well, Jen, talk to us a little bit about, again, I mean, anyone who's been to Reddit, they know it's a pretty simple user interface. And I'm just curious how you guys have thought about that as you've brought on lots of new users, eyeballs, on a daily basis. Have you thought about kind of going in a different direction as far as the interface is concerned and how that might be attractive to advertisers, marketers, that sort of thing?
Well, Reddit is really human-powered. I mean, we're a technology company, and we apply ML to make sure that you get relevant content, et cetera. Like, absolutely. But in the end, every single piece of content is written by a user, and it's voted on by users, and then moderated by communities, like people in the community. So we really believe in humans, and like all creative things really come from humans, and technology is just there to take out friction and allow them to scale what they want to build. So if you looked at Reddit over the last 17 years, it hasn't always been the prettiest property, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter because all people needed was a place to write a question, a text, a photo, and they got a simple system of moderation and votes, and they got incredible answers to their and help for the things that they needed. So for us, it's more about how do we use technology to create strong governance and safety and structure within the communities? How do we take out friction from the natural human desire to build, to converse, to ask questions, and to talk? And that's what we spend our time on, and then obviously organizing that corpus so that people can access it. As we've gotten bigger over time, it's a vast amount of information to get from what you want to a very specific, for me, solving my carrot problems in the garden, for example.
So, David, talk to us a little bit about, though, again, you guys were a DTC brand from the get-go here, and how much you've learned over the last couple of years, and how, like this thing, your thoughts about technology have changed. I mean, again, I think that for your product, which, I have 2 teenage daughters and a wife, and I'm familiar with the brand. I'm not the inner workings, but I know that you guys do some very unique things. You've changed that buying experience from the get-go, but now, how has all of this stuff that we just kind of talked about right here? How has that changed the way you think about expanding your business going forward?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what was said earlier about Forbes pivoting to a digital business today, entirely digital almost, we thought of how to take retail, which was an entirely you go into a store, you speak to a salesperson, you have to be in a mall or somewhere on the street, and how do you actually take that exact experience and put it on a 2-dimensional 13-inch screen or 6-inch screen? That's really, really hard to do. And when we started the business, my wife and I, in our living room, we thought about ML and other tools, including computer vision technology, to figure out how we could solve the fit problem from home. And if anybody's, today our Fit Finder has been taken by 23 million people. And that vast amount of data informs how we inventory, what products we go into, what we create, what new sizes we create. We have 70 or so sizes, which is more than double the average brand in the world. And those additional sizes outside of sort of the core and the bell curve of size are only informed through data. So we really tried to think about what we can do differently in the world of retail and create an online digital experience that matched where, at least in 2013, we thought people were headed. And then from an advertising perspective, I don't know if we're doing anything that's that revolutionary, but I think we do think about it a little differently, which is really how do we find high quality, high intent driven customers that meet sort of our core values too. And today, as I was saying before, but I can't stress it enough, we really think outside the Facebook, Google ecosystem, because we are starting to believe through our own data and what we've seen that some of those best customers are actually coming outside those 2 core ecosystems, which is a really nice thing to have seen.
So that is a great example of personalization, obviously in a product right there. Talk to us, Adam, a little bit, because I know that you've been pretty outspoken on this topic. I mean, it's becoming increasingly difficult for publishers to kind of get more granular as it relates to personalization. Regulation's a huge issue here. Talk to us a little bit about that, because again, it feels like regulation is always out there, or the threat of it. But with ATT, we've seen a huge shift over the last few years here. I'm just curious from your perspective how you're thinking about it.
I think, overall, I think privacy is a good thing. I mean, many of us, we've all been on a website, and then suddenly the entire internet became a banner representing that website, and it's following us, and it's creeping in on us. None of us like to be creeped out by things. So overall, privacy and feeling like a fair experience is a good thing. On the other side, I think personalization is mandatory, because we want things to be relevant for us. So there's this balance between how creepy you are to how relevant you are. And I think some social companies have, crossed the line, maybe over-biasing, over-indexing on creepiness. So the privacy overall is a good thing, because it just normalizes everyone to the same standards that consumers deserve: a personalized, relevant, non-creepy web. So that is a good thing. In general, specifically companies who are hurt from the regulations, I think, are companies who've taken advantage of third-party cookies and IDFA, which is SDKs that are integrated across apps without asking your permission. Just to give you an example, if you buy a pizza on your app, on a food app, and somehow suddenly there's an ad on a social network surfacing you more pizza, how did they know you like pizza so much? And there are way more creepy examples I can give you. I just chose pizza because it's the morning time. But so I think overall it's a good thing. For publishers, it's amazing, because publishers have first-party data. Forbes, Reddit, they have a lot of first-party relationship with consumers. People trust them. Trust is a big deal, especially for younger audiences. So I'm optimistic about publishers. I'm less optimistic about companies who have taken advantage of something that is now regulated.
Yeah, so and Jen, just to that younger audience, when you just mentioned Wall Street Bets, it's something near and dear to my heart. We were talking about it a lot on CNBC in 2021, and I'm assuming that's a predominantly younger audience, a new audience that came and found a place to have these discussions here. Talk to me a little bit, again, how do you guys think about regulation and some of these issues as it relates to personalization?
Yeah, I mean, privacy is like a foundational stone for Reddit. I mean, we do not force people to log in. It's an anonymous platform, and we think that's really important that people have control over their data and identity. You know, when you go on Reddit, you might be asking about gardening, but you might be asking personal questions about your health, your family. It's very important that people can get access to that information and be de-anonymized from their PII. We think that's incredibly important, and I think we've built an advertising business that is in harmony with our values. And I think for a while we thought we were crazy because it seemed like all the advertising businesses that were successful just seemed to just fly in the face of privacy. And now it seems like, oh, people do care about privacy, and actually this foundational stone is really important. It's actually helpful for our proposition. Marketers care about it, our customers care about it, our users care about it, and yet we still have a performative, high-value, distinctive ad product, but it is in harmony with who we are. And I think that that trend will continue. I really think that that's incredibly positive. The only other thing I'll comment on is I think the internet was born for open conversation. And you always want open conversation to be safe and healthy. That's important. That's not only an internet problem, that can be a human problem. Humans are good and bad. But I think we believe in open conversation because that's how people learn and that's how people change minds. And I think Reddit, I think, really supports open conversation. That's really important to us. And I don't think that's something that you can change.
Yeah. Here's one that I think all of us are trying to grapple with, either in our own lives or our businesses. So, and Jessica, this is for you. And as a consumer, I think we all kind of face this thing: is like more ads, less subscription, that sort of thing. I mean, we go back and forth between that. Talk to us how you've thought about that evolution at Forbes, subscription versus ad-based products, because I've done in my own business kind of grappled with that sort of thing. I mean, do you want like kind of walled gardens, or do you want how are you guys thinking about it right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, Forbes has had an incredible track record of success with diversification. And, currently today, our media business is important and strong, but it represents 50% of our overall revenues. And our site, we talk about trust. That's the number 2 thing we hear related to Forbes. Number 1 is success, a brand that stands for success and entrepreneurial capitalism. Our business has been an advertising model. We have moved into not a hard paywall, but a membership opportunity where we've launched recently My Forbes. So we're really trying to serve the right products to the right audiences at the right time, and feel like as part of what we've done at Forbes is, quality at scale, community at scale, and then driving these cohorts and these communities and becoming part of a member of Forbes. So that includes, access to research, premium content, personalization on our site, and again, we look to and lean on our partners for that to help us. We don't know it all, we have to learn it all. So serving the right information, the right content to the right people to get them to subscribe, if you will, or become a member. Access to our events, live stream, in person, all of those types of tools and tactics that we're really exploring. It's a lot of testing and learning. We haven't figured it all out, but we're working on it.
Let me just say, Jessica, actually, that the non-walled garden approach that you guys have taken, unlike everybody else in your space, Forbes today represents the #1 driver of traffic to our site from a news publisher. They've also covered us a lot too, but it's because people actually read the articles and don't just turn away because they can only read the first 4 lines. So I think your approach is brilliant.
Okay, we only have a few minutes, and I think David will just drag us off here if we go late here. So, but I wanted to, there was an economist.
One way or another.
One way or
Not Adam? Come on.
Oh, there he is. Hey, David. So F. Scott Fitzgerald published The Great Gatsby in 1925, 7 years after the Spanish flu. David, you remember the Spanish flu. Yeah. And interestingly enough, in that book, this is an economist, David Rosenberg, quoted this in a research piece earlier this year. It really stuck with me. There's not a single mention of the Spanish flu in that book. And so I'm just curious, and maybe if all of you guys could just take a quick minute and just tell us a little bit about how you think about your businesses, how you think about just the all of your counterparties and who you interact with, what that means to you in a few years if we are looking in the rear view mirror of this thing. And listen, right here, Nobu last night here, it feels like kind of it's becoming a distant memory. I'm just curious how you guys think about it as operators. And maybe we'll just go right down the line here, Jess.
You know, I was that person. I was like, I'll see you in 2 weeks, everyone. You know, I told my event team.
Me too.
Just cockeyed optimism. Just reschedule for the next 2 months. We'll be fine. And, 2.5 years later, wow, we're still remote.
Yeah.
We're fully remote workforce, and we meet at places like this. I never would have predicted that. It's so hard to see the future. So much has changed for the good. So much has changed that will stay, and it's been interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, my 21-year-old son was just like, it's coming, the roaring 20s, get ready for it. That younger mindset, embracing, what's next and what's ahead, and being able to just pivot on that. I think we've all learned so much, but it's never easy. It takes a great operator to run a challenging, changing business, in my opinion, than an easy, fast-growing one. At least that's what I try to tell myself when it's hard to get up some mornings.
Well, optimism, and Adam, I know you personally, you're a very optimistic person. I mean, how do you think about
Delusional, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll tell you why. I think for the last year, and Jen and I were just talking about it, companies went up and right for no good reason. You could have seen Seinfeld at home and your company went up, and things were great. Not because you executed well, not because you had a great culture, not because you were innovative, had the right strategy, product management, all the things that you're supposed to do really well and different, better than others to succeed. None of that happened over the last 2 years. It just happened. Now, you have to really be good at what you do. You have to have all the right ingredients that build amazing companies forever, like Zeta and Forbes and Reddit and ThirdLove and others. So I like it because I like, I don't think anyone deserves to win. People have to work hard for their luck. So for me, that's an opportunity to execute and, focus on doing the work and lean in with your clients and partners. And I love the open web and publishers and all those good things. So I see it as an opportunity to re-energize, our company and our partners and ecosystem to be different, better than those who just may not deserve that slot in time.
I'll say, I was going to say almost something very similar. Quality and profitability. I think that when we look back on this era, the best companies will have survived it. We have no predictability anymore in business cycles, as this year is unfortunately proving. And every good company, especially fast-growing startups that were overspending, have turned profitable, the smart ones at least, because you can't predict where the future is going. And I think those are the companies that will survive. And when we look back on this era, it's all about quality businesses.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we went through this arc, now we've done it twice, where you have everything valued purely on growth and revenue. And I think everybody looks back at that over the last couple of years and thinks, ooh, we're not doing that again. That's swung maybe a little hard over toward profit and cash flow. So a lot of energy, SPACs, and IPOs going out in the next 6 months. But I think ultimately it will land in a healthier place from a market and investor standpoint, a balance across growth and sustainability, which is, I think, much more healthy for the overall economy. I think from a work standpoint, it will be interesting because I think all of our businesses will have to get stronger and work harder to achieve the results that we saw in the last couple of years. But at the same time, there's this movement of maybe a little bit more of a Southern European work-life experience that people have embraced. We see this in anti-work, and the two things are like rising at the same time. So it is very interesting to see where that will all shake out because they're a little bit in conflict with each other.
You know how this anti-work thing, a good old-fashioned recession will fix that really quickly. So, all right, well, listen, we're over here. Brilliant panel. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.